Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, I'm going to take you step by step from downloading the paid SVG files from my shop, so how to add them to your cart and check out, and then how to download them onto your computer or mobile device, unzip the folders, upload them into Cricut Design Space, and then how you can recolor them if you want to. So if you want to customize the designs, for example, maybe you've bought the design of the pug which is brown but you've got a black pug, then I'll show you how to recolor it. And then finally I'll show you how to send the designs to your Cricut machine, cut it out and then stick it together. This is going to be a really detailed video that shows you every single part of the process step by step. So here is my shop. The web address is shop.craftwithsarah.com, and on the homepage it shows you some of my bundles. So bundles are the most cost-effective way to buy my designs. It's a collection of 10 designs that I've put together, and if you bought those 10 individually it would cost you $50, but in the bundle it's just $37, so that is quite a big saving. If there are quite a few designs across my site that you like the look of, but they aren't contained in one bundle, you can make your own. So I have this custom bundle where you can choose any 10 designs and still get them for that discounted rate. If you just want to purchase one or a couple of designs, you can do that too. They're all available individually. You can use the links at the top of the screen to browse the different categories. And for this video, I'm going to click on dog breed SVGs. Here this lists all of the dog breed designs that I currently have available. If you can't see your favourite design, you can scroll through the different pages to see more. And if you look through them all and you still can't see your doggy in there, then don't worry, because I am releasing new designs every single month, so keep an eye on it and your doggy may be available very soon. So when you found a design that you like the look of, you can click into it. So I'm going to find the pug. Here it is. Okay, pug SVG. So I'm going to click into that one. And then it has lots of information on the page. So it's got recommended materials and size. There's information about how to use the files. And then some terms of use, so you are allowed to sell physical handcrafted items that you make using all of my files, but you must not sell digital files or share the digital files with anybody else. But there's lots more information about that in detail on the product pages. If you'd like to purchase a design, click on Add to Cart. You can then either continue shopping and choose more designs, or press View Cart. And this will take you to your shopping cart. So you can see I've got the pug in here and it's going to cost me $5. All my prices are shown in USD. When you're ready, click the checkout button and this will take you to the checkout page. So if you have a discount code, you can enter it in this box here on the right. If you are on my email newsletter, then I often send out discount codes. I release one for a few days every time a new collection is launched. So if you would like to take advantage of those discount codes, then sign up to my newsletter. I'll put a link in the description of this video so you can see where to sign up. Okay, so you can just fill this out. You can either pay by card or you can pay by PayPal. To pay by PayPal, you can just click the Express Checkout button, or if you'd prefer to pay by card, then fill out all the fields on here and click Continue to Payment. You do still get the option to pay by PayPal after you've clicked Continue to Payment as well, so if you change your mind, that's absolutely fine. You can still do PayPal even if you have clicked this blue button. So I added my details to the form and went on to the next step, and this is the page that you see next. So if you've forgotten to add your discount code, you can add it in on this page, and as I said, you've still got the option to either pay by credit or debit card, or you can pay by PayPal. So choose whichever one you want and then follow the steps through and click Pay Now. Once your payment's gone through, you'll see a page like this. So it says preparing your downloads with a little spinning wheel. This might take a couple of minutes to go through because the website has to check that it's received your payment, which can take a little while. It will also send you an email with a link to your files. So if you don't want to keep this window open and wait for it to download, just check your emails and you'll see them in there. Again, that might take a few minutes to come through after you've paid. So you can see now this middle bit has updated and it's now showing me the files. If you have purchased more than one, then it will just list them all out. So you can see I've got a big Download Now button and it says you will also receive an email. But because I've still got this open, I'm going to click the Download Now button. And you can see that has taken me straight to the download folder. It's downloaded straight onto my computer. So I can click into that, and this has gone into the zip folder. All of the files on my website come in zip folders, and a zip folder is basically just a way for me to send you multiple files in one contained folder. So instead of having to download each one of these individually, you only have to click download once and they're all in that zip folder. So this works really well for making the download process easier and quicker for you, but there is one little step you need to do before you can open these files in Cricut Design Space, and that is to unzip the folder. I'm going to show you how to do it on a Windows computer because that's what I'm using. It is a little bit different on a Mac and again a little bit different on a mobile device, so an iPad or iPhone or Android device. I'll add some links to the description of this video for where you can find information on how to unzip folders on all of those other types of systems. So there are two ways I could unzip this. The first is to click and drag to select all of these files and then right click on them and press copy. I can then go into a different folder on my computer. So let's go to my desktop. I'm going to make a new folder by clicking new folder and just call this Pug. You don't have to put it on your desktop, it can be wherever you want. It could be in your documents or wherever you want to put it. So I'm going to double click into there and then right click and paste. And now all of these files are outside of that zip folder, so I can now upload them into Design Space. I will just show you another way to do it though. So what I've just done quickly, so that you didn't see all the other files inside my downloads folder because it's quite full, so it's quite confusing. I've just copied the zip folder onto my desktop. So another way to unzip, if you don't want to do the way I just showed you, is very simple. You just right click on the zip folder, press extract all, choose where you want to save it, and then press extract. And that will make a copy of the folder with the same name. So you can see now I've got this Pug Craft with Sarah at the bottom, but the icon of this folder does not have the zip down it. If I just make my icons bigger, you can see. So this is the zip folder. You know it's a zip folder because it's got that zip down it. This is the one we've just unzipped and it doesn't have the zip, and you can see the preview. So I can double click in here, and again these, now they're unzipped, are all suitable for me to upload into Design Space. So a quick overview of what you get when you purchase my files. You get an assembly guide for all of them. If I just double click into this one, this is a PDF. And it shows you the order in which to stick all the layers on the design and whether for that particular layer you should use the 3D foam pads or glue. So with all my designs, the layers themselves will be cut out from cardstock. I'll show you that in a minute. But when you stick them to one another to create the 3D effect, they'll either be stuck together with foam pads or glue. And again, if you're not sure what products to buy, I'll go through that in a little bit. But all of my designs come with this assembly guide just to make it easier for you to see what to stick in what order. There is a text file in here called Bonus Facebook Group. So everyone who buys something from me has the option to join my private customer only Facebook group. And it's a lovely community with loads of crafters in there, sharing their projects, asking questions, and we have lots of fun in there. So I would recommend joining it. You've then got three separate files of the actual cutting file. There's one which starts DXF, and this is for Silhouette machines if you've got the free version of Silhouette Studio. There's one which starts PNG, and that is for hand cutting. So if you don't have a Cricut machine, you can print that. I don't actually recommend hand cutting these because they're way too detailed, but I've just put that file in just in case. The third file type is the one that starts SVG, and this is the SVG file. This is the one that you upload into Cricut Design Space. So if you have a Cricut, this is super important, and I will say it again in a bit, but if you have a Cricut, you must upload the one that starts SVG. None of the other ones will work, so make sure you upload that one. The other two files that I include is one called Preview, and that's just a picture of the design fully made up so you can see what it will look like, and then Terms of Use, and this just lists out my terms of use for the files, so I do recommend having a little read of that. Some of my cutting file designs come in multiple versions. For example, the Boxer Dog, it comes in 4 versions, so docked ears, docked tail full tail, full ears docked tail, and full ears full tail. So if you're looking at something that you've just unzipped and you can't see those file types that I just described, it will be because there's folders inside of here for all of the different versions. So you can just double click to enter one of those, and then you can see the DXF, PNG and SVG files in there. Alright, so that was how to purchase from my website, how to download the file and how to unzip it. So now we're ready to open up Cricut Design Space and get that SVG file in there. I've opened up Cricut Design Space and I'm going to click New Project on the top left. Now this is how to do it on the desktop version of Design Space, but the mobile version is very similar. So if you're only using the mobile version, then keep watching through this and it should give you the information you need to work out how to do it on a phone. If it doesn't and you've still got questions, then feel free to email me. My email address is in the description of this video. So as I said, I'm going to click New Project to create a new file. Now when you're uploading SVGs into Design Space, you want to click Upload on the left hand side. So it's the very last option, click into there, and then it gives you the option to upload an image. So I'll click Upload Image and it gives me this screen. So you can either click Browse to find the SVG file on your computer, or you can drag and drop it, which is what I'm going to do. So here is the unzipped version of the files that we made earlier, and remember what I said, the one you want is the one that starts SVG. None of these other files will work in Design Space. It's the SVG one you need. Now don't worry if your SVG file doesn't show this blue box with the PS above it. That's just because I've got my SVG files to automatically open in Photoshop. Yours might be set to automatically open in Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or whatever. So the picture that you see above it might be different. That does not matter. Don't worry about what the picture is. The important thing is the file name. So it's the one that starts SVG. I'm going to click and drag and then let go when it goes green. And then if I close that, this is what it should look like after it's uploaded. So it shows the image in the preview on the left and you can see all of the layers, but they're all in the correct position. If after you've uploaded it, you see all of the layers completely separate from one another, so they're not one on top of the other like how this pug looks, but if you see them all separated out, that means you've uploaded the PNG file and not the SVG. So if yours is all looking as separate layers, click cancel and then start again and upload the SVG file. Here's my SVG file. I can give it a name if I want to, but I'm just going to keep it at that, and I'm going to click save down the bottom right. The pug has now appeared in my recently uploaded images, so I can click on it to give it that green border and then press insert images. Before we can cut this with our Cricut, we need to check the size of it. So click on it and then look in the width and the height boxes in the top to see what it says. So at the moment this is 7.5 inches tall, and I think I'm just going to keep it at that because that's a good size, and I'm just making this as an example. It's not actually going to go in a frame. So I'm happy to keep it at that, but you should resize it to fit the frame or the greetings card or the scrapbook page or wherever it is that you're going to put it. Now I will say that on some of my older designs, when you load them into Design Space, they come in really small at like 2 inches tall. So it is really important that you check the width and the height before you cut it out, just to make sure that it is a suitable size, because you do not want to be cutting any of these designs at 2 inches tall. It would be a bit of a disaster. So I'm going to keep that as that size. But one thing I said at the beginning is that sometimes you might want to change how the design is coloured. So in this example, perhaps you've got a black pug, not a fawn coloured one, so you want to cut it out in black. The easiest way to change the colour is to do it in Design Space first, so that you can see how it's going to look before you actually cut it out. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to look down all of the different layers and see what's in there, and when I'm doing a black dog, I like to alternate the layers between a black and a really dark grey so that you can still see all the details through. If you just cut every single layer out in black, when you stick it together, you're not really going to see the detail. It'll all just blend in together. So by using a dark grey as well, it just helps you to see those details. Now this does take a little bit of practice, and there's two different ways to do it. The first is to click on each layer separately in the Layers panel, go into the colour box, and change the colour. So you can do that with all of them, and actually I'd probably make that one the dark grey. You can do that with all of them to get the colours how you want them, but another way to do it, if I just click undo to put that back, is at the top of the layers panel there's a box called Colour Sync. So if you press that, this shows you all of the layers that are in this design split out by each individual colour, and then you can click and drag to change things about. And I like recolouring things with this if the other colours are available. So in this case they are, because it'll be the black and these shades of grey, because it makes it a little bit easier, in my opinion, to see what you're changing. But if you'd prefer to do it just on the individual layers, that is absolutely fine. It's entirely up to you. So on this Colour Sync, I am going to have a little think about what I want to do. So for the very back layer, the one with his tail, I think that will be black. So I'm going to click and drag that up to black, which is the nose and the eyes, and then let go with my mouse. The next one, this fawny colour, this is the layer that appears underneath the flowers, and I want this to be dark grey so that I'll be able to see the flowers on top when they're cut out from black. So I'm going to click and drag that to one of the greys. The next one is the whole dog shape with the flowers, and that one will be black. Next I've got the face, and I don't know if that will work brilliantly in black because you won't be able to see the lines on his face. So I'm going to drag this to the next darkest grey, which is the colour of the top layers of the ears and the mouth. This is getting there now, but I think we could probably make it look a little bit more like a black pug. It might look a bit grey at the moment because we've still got these other shades. So the top layer of the snout and the ears, let's see how they look in black. There we go. And then the bits around the eye, so underneath the eyes where it's still pale grey, I've got this other colour of grey at the moment, but I'm thinking we could probably get away with just using that dark colour for all of them. Let's see how that looks. That's probably better. So now we're only using black and a dark grey. I don't want to make the bits around the eyes black because otherwise you won't be able to see the circle eyes on top. If I zoom in just to make it a bit bigger so you can see easier, I think this is okay. I think I'm happy with this. The nose, you are still going to see it because it will be cut out separately, so it will be more 3D than the rest of the snout. So yeah, I think I'm happy with that now. Now he is a black pug, not a fawn pug. But obviously you can play with this as much as you want. You can add new colours, you can remove colours, whatever you want to do to get it looking as much like your dog or the doggy that it is that you're making as possible. Now, because this is just two colours now, it's not going to be the best example for me to show you how to cut it out. So I'm just going to undo all of those colour changes and put it back to the fawn colour, as I think that will make these next steps easier to see. So here's my little pug back to his original colours. If I click layers, you can see we've still got all those original colours. Alright, so my pug is ready to make. Now, if you've made changes to the design, I thoroughly recommend clicking save and saving your project, just in case anything goes wrong so that you know you've got a copy of it to come back to. When you're ready to cut it out, click make it in the top right and it will split out all of the different colours for you. So I've got a white, I've got a light grey, which is going to be the snout and the ears. I've got a darker grey, which is the top layer of the snout and the ears. I've got a black, which is for the eyes and the nose. There's a pink, which is for the tongue, so that's just a tiny little piece. And then I've got two fawn colours. I've got a light one and a darker one. So it is a little bit tricky to see as they are quite similar. Now the darker colour is splitting onto two mats because Cricket doesn't think that there's room on the same one. I think there probably is, but we'll see in a minute. So at this point you can change the paper size to fit the paper that you're going to be cutting out of. So because I'm in the UK, 12 by 12 paper is quite hard to come by, especially at a reasonable price. So most of what I cut out is done on A4 paper. I'm going to go through each of these and change them to A4. So you need to do the change for every single colour that we've got. I've set this to A4, but I'll probably just put a little scrap on there. There's no sense in starting a brand new sheet of card just for that tiny piece. So now I'm coming on to this light fawn colour, and I have a feeling when I change this to A4, it's going to split it into two mats. Yeah, you can see, let's put that on the second. Now I think I can still fit it on one, and if I can get away with using one sheet of card, not two, then that is what I'll do, because I hate to waste materials. To change layers to a different mat, find the one you want to change and click on the three little dots in the top left, and then press Move Object. Now this is super important. Make sure you move it to the same colour of mat. So mine is going to be this one, which is the other light fawn colour. So I can hit Confirm, and now it's moved it onto this mat, but it's appeared right on top of the other layer. I need to make sure I drag this so that it is not touching this layer, otherwise the Cricut will they'll cut through each other, which we don't want. If you can't get it to fit exactly, you can use the rotate to get it on there. So now you can see I've got those two shapes on the one piece of card, so I'm only going to use one and not two. I think I might not be able to be so lucky with this one because that is quite big. I'll give it a go. Actually, I don't think it's going to work because... Oh no, it does. Look, that fitted. Amazing. I thought that was going to be too tall to be able to go that way round. But because it's not, I think I can move this one onto the other sheet. Oh, it's selected both layers. Just the top one. Let's rotate. And if you hit Shift when you rotate, it does it in proportion. I might need to switch it all the way around the other way. There, so now I've got the two dark fawn colours on the same piece of card. So now I'm only going to need two of those fawn colours, one light one for these two and one dark one. When you're done rearranging everything on your mats, go ahead and click Continue. Make sure you've turned your Cricut machine on so that it will connect, and then it will show you this. Now, if you've been changing the layers about, note that it might have still selected that last layer. So be sure to just scroll to the top and click on the first one to make sure that you cut it out in order. Otherwise, you might accidentally put white card on and then it cuts out the fawn, and that would not be good. So I've just clicked on that top one, and then I can click into the materials. For some reason that will grayed out, but I think I can just click. That was weird. Okay, so if yours is greyed out, just click into it and it should add the colour again. I'm using some Sizzix card. I will show you the exact brand in a minute, but this I can get away with cutting it in as light cardstock on my Cricut machine. I've got a Cricut Maker, so light cardstock on a light blue mat works for me. You might need to play about with the different settings, maybe medium cardstock or heavy cardstock. If you can't see those options, click into where it says Browse All Materials, and if you just search for card and hit enter, then you get the three different options. So light, medium, and then there's also heavy cardstock. And if you press the star that appears when you hover over it, that will add that material to your favourites, so you won't need to search for it every time. So I've got mine here, and I know this will cut fine from light cardstock on a default setting. You can change the pressure to more or less if you want to add a little bit more weight to the cut or a little bit less. With some of the card I use, I need medium cardstock because it's a little bit thicker, and occasionally I'll use heavy cardstock, but I try and keep it light just because it cuts better. Alright, so let's click light cardstock. If you want to change your mind at any point, you can just click where it says light cardstock and it will give you the drop down and you can change your mind. And that's really helpful. You can do that even when you've started cutting. So for example, if your white is a light cardstock but your grey is a medium, after your white has cut out and it is then telling you to load your blade and your mat for the grey, you can still click into this base material and change it to a different type, and then when it cuts the grey out, it will cut it from that different type. But then remember, when it goes on to the next one, if you need to change it back to light, then make sure you change it back. So now we're ready to cut. We want to put our first colour on the mat, and then go ahead, follow the steps on the screen to cut out all of the different layers from all of your different colours. I get asked quite a lot what cardstock I use to make the dog breeds and my layered designs in general. I tend to use 160 GSM card or thereabouts because it's quite lightweight, so it's easy to cut with the Cricut. My favourite brown card and grey card to use for the dog breeds is this set from Sizzix. So I've already unpacked the cards, so I don't have it to show you, but this is one of them, which I use, and you can see it comes in all these neutral colours, and I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but it's got a lovely texture on it, so it looks just that extra bit special, and because it's lightweight, you can see it's really easy to bend, it cuts well, and having the pattern doesn't affect how it cuts. And these just work so well for the dog breeds. The colours are brilliant, they're very lifelike. So yeah, check out the description for some links to where I get these. I get it on Amazon. Alright, so if you're new to Cricut completely and you're not quite sure how to cut cardstock on your Cricut, here is my mat. It is an off-brand one, not a Cricut one. I do tend to get these just because they're a bit cheaper. Slide your mat under the pieces on the Cricut machine and press the flashing button to feed it in. This is a Cricut Maker machine, so it's a little bit different if you've got one of the other models. Once it's taken your mat in, press the flashing go button and it will start cutting everything out. Once it's finished the cut of one piece of card, it will feed the mat out, and then to take it out completely, press the flashing button again, and then that will give you your mat back so that you can take your card off. So now I've got my design cut out, and I don't want to just peel the cardstock off like this because it will roll up and it won't be flat. Instead, what you need to do is turn your mat upside down and then slowly bend your mat backwards, and then use your hand to hold the piece of card as flat to your work surface as possible. And you can't really see from this angle, I don't think, but if there's any bits that are coming off, just slowly guide them down so you're keeping it nice and flat. That way your mat takes all of the bend and your card comes off perfectly flat. And now you can just take the pieces out that you've cut. If you've done the thin layers with all of the flowers on, then you'll probably end up with some pieces still stuck to your Cricut mat, all the little bits inside the flowers. So this wasn't the best example. I've only got these two little pieces from the pug. All you need is your little Cricut scraper tool. If you don't have one, you can use an old credit card or something like that, and you can just scrape them off. So just pull them off of the sticky. And then you're ready to carry on with the next colour. When you're finished, make sure you put the plastic wrap back on your mat to protect it. Just make sure you push it down so it's nicely stuck, and that stops any dust or debris getting in there until you next use it. So I'm going to go ahead, cut out all of the different layers, and then come back and show you how to stick it together. Okay, so I've just had a little bit of an oops moment. I just thought I recorded myself putting the pug layers together so I could show you how to do it, but it turns out I didn't actually press record. So the next part of the video is still going to be how to stick one of my layered dogs together, but it will be one of the designs that I have definitely already recorded. So apologies that it doesn't quite match up, but it's the same sort of process for any of the layered designs, so you should be able to follow along no matter which one you purchased. I will eventually be releasing a separate video for all of the different dogs as well as all the other layered designs, so if you are waiting for that, then subscribe to my YouTube channel to make sure you don't miss out. But in the meantime, don't forget every single one of my layered designs from my shop comes with a PDF called Assembly Guide. If you open that up, it shows you which layer to stick together in which order and whether to stick each particular layer with either 3D foam to create that 3D effect, and some of them you stick with glue, and the assembly guide tells you which one is which. But for now, let's jump on and see how to stick it together. It just won't be the pug that you were expecting. To stick the layered designs together, you will need some foam pads and some glue. Some of the layers will be stick together with foam to make that 3D effect, but on some of the thinner ones, they will use glue just because the layers are too thin to be able to fit the foam pads on. So I use these foam squares from Dot & Dab because I can buy them quite cheaply online. These ones are quite big, so what I often have to do is just cut them smaller with a pair of scissors so that they'll fit. So they do cut fairly easily, but you can buy much smaller ones, including some micro dots, and they are really, really small. So if you don't want to have to cut them, that can be a better option. For the glue, I use this tacky glue from Tonic Studios. Any tacky glue will work well, and the reason I like this one is that the nozzle is really thin, so I can be really accurate when I'm putting the glue on the back. Now, if you tend to be messy with glue, you could try using spray adhesive instead. I know there are lots of crafters that like using that instead of glue for the layered projects. So what you'd need to do is just spray it over your design, and then that makes it sticky so that you can stick it to the next layer. So those are a few different options for how to stick the layers together, but now let's see exactly how to do it. Here's my French Bulldog design, which is the closest one to the pug that I actually had managed to catch on video. I'm just cutting some of my foam pieces smaller. Once I've cut everything out, I like to just lie the pieces one on top the other to check I've got everything cut out right and from the correct colours. So that's why I had them all in position, and now I can just bring them apart so that I can start selecting the layers to stick together. Use the assembly guide PDF which came in your purchase to see which layers to put on in which order. The next one I need is this other piece of the body, so I've turned it upside down and now I'm going to add foam pads to the back. You want to make sure you add foam to all of the extremity parts, so legs and ears on the dogs, so the bits that are kind of sticky out from the rest of it, and that's to make sure that they're all nicely stuck to the layer beneath it and they won't start sort of coming away. You also want to make sure you put foam in any large spaces in the middle, and that's to stop the card from sagging once you put all the other layers over the top. So if you don't put anything in the middle, there's nothing to stabilise it, and it can cause it to sag. I've taken the tops off the foam pads and now I can stick it. I tend to just gently lie it on to start with in case I mess it up, like I did here. So because I only gently drop this on, I can peel it off without damaging the card and try again. So I'm lining it up using the ears as a guide and gently pushing it down, and then I was happy with that, so I pushed it down firmly to seal. The next layer is this one with the flowers in the body, and for this one you could either use glue or foam. I'm going to use foam, but I'm going to need to cut it really small to fit in all of those spaces around the flowers. So once again I'm adding some pieces to the main body of the layer, and then to get the foam inside where all the flowers are, I'm going to have to cut it smaller, and you need to make sure that the foam doesn't cover up any of the holes or go outside the design. If it does, then it means you'll be able to see the foam through when you turn it over, and it will just look a little bit messy. So try not to do that, and instead take some time, cut it even smaller if you need to make sure that foam stays on the card and doesn't peek through any of the holes. So I'm nearly done now. I've just got two tiny little pieces to put on the bottom of the feet, and then I can peel the tops off of the foam pads to release all of the sticky. Now that's done, I can turn it round and stick it on top of what I've already done. So I'm lining it up, and then when I'm happy I can push down to get all those foam pads nicely stuck, and then move on to the next layer, which is the bottom part of the chest. This is another foam layer, so once again a couple of foam pieces in all of the main parts and in the middle to make sure it doesn't sag. Peel the tops off of the foam pads and then turn it upside down and stick it to the design. You can see where it goes because we're lining it up with the ears still at the top of the head. The next layer is the detail for the front, and for this one again you could use either glue or foam. I'm going to use glue this time because I don't want it to get too thick with too many layers, so I'm just going to add a bit of glue to the back of this. You can see I'm not drowning it in glue. I'm just adding a thin line and a little bit in the middle and then some around the bottom. If you add too much glue, it can cause it to seep through so you see it from the other side, which obviously we don't want. Or it means when you stick it on, it might squidge out the edges and again become visible. The glue does dry clear though, so if a little bit of it comes out, it's not really a problem. Now it's time to move on to the head. So I'm going to separate out all of these pieces to get the bottom layer of the head, which is this 4D coloured one. Turn it upside down and add the foam. As the pieces get smaller, you need less foam because obviously the piece will be lighter, so it doesn't need as much to stick. And then when you have put that on, you can line it up and push down to seal. Next, we've got the layer of the head with the flowers, and this is another one where you could use glue or foam, but I'm going to use foam because I want a nice three-dimensional effect on the face. This is really, really narrow around the ears and the head, so I'm going to have to be super careful with my foam pads to make sure I cut them tiny enough that they're not going to show through any of the gaps. I've got some rogue pieces of foam pad on my desk that I'm trying to clear out the way here. And then I can stick this on the top. And you'll see as you put the layers on, the detail really starts coming to life. Now for this one, I'm going to stick the tongue to the back of the snout or muzzle. And some of the layers, you do need to do this. So you can see I'm putting a tiny bit of glue on there. And then I'm going to put the oval piece for the tongue on that glue and then turn it the correct way up and just use my fingers to move the tongue into a position that I'm happy with before the glue dries. When you have to do this with the layers, it does tell you in the assembly guide, so be sure to keep an eye on that to make sure you're sticking everything correctly. I can then add the foam like normal to the back, turn it around and stick it onto the face, and I'm going to line it up with the solid fawn piece that matches the shape of the muzzle, like so. I've got one little piece of foam stuck to my finger, so I'm going to use that for the nose. If you're not sure where the nose or eyes or any other parts go, you can look at the completed photo that I include in all of my products to see where to put it. Next, I'm going to do the eyes, and usually for the dog breed eyes, I don't use foam, I just glue them straight to the head. But for French Bulldogs, their eyes are quite poppy, like they pop out, so I thought foam would look a little bit more realistic. The older dog breed designs that I've done don't have the 2 layers for the eyes, they've just got the black layer, so if yours doesn't have this white layer, don't worry about it. Now to stick the black one on, I'm just going to put a tiny little piece of glue down the bottom part of the whites of the eyes and then stick the eyes on top. If you are using one of the older designs that doesn't have the white, I recommend using a white pen or a tiny bit of maybe paint to add a dot of white into the eye to add that character. Finally, I've got the 2 pieces of pink to go in the ears, and for this one I'm adding the foam directly onto the ears as I thought that would be easier. And then I can take the 2 little pieces and just stick them straight on. There's one, and here is the other. And now my little French Bulldog is all complete. So here he is. He looks really cute. I'm very happy with how he turned out. So I hope you enjoyed this video on how to cut and assemble my layered designs. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching. Bye!